Hello, good morning, and welcome to another moment where we talk about business. It is Business 360, and my name is Blyden Okem. In Business 360 today, we'll look at some of the biggest talking points in the world of business. And one of it would be about the U.S. economy, and we begin from there. The annual inflation rate in the U.S. likely slowed to 3.3% in October 2023, from 3.7% in both September and August. This would mark the first slowdown in headline inflation in 4 months, indicating a gradual easing of price pressures. Compared to September, the consumer price index likely rose 0.1%, the least since May, mainly due to a fall in gasoline prices. On the foreign scenes, Nepal has banned China's TikTok because of its contents, in quotes, was detrimental to social harmony. The decision comes days after the country introduced a new rule requiring social media firms to set up light zone offices in the country. TikTok, which has around 1 billion monthly users, has been banned by several countries, including India. Earlier this year, Montana became the first U.S. state to ban it, while the UK Parliament banned it from its network. Minister for Communication and Information Technology, Rekha Sharma, said the platform spreads malicious contents. Meanwhile, Latvia's president says Russia is planning for a long war in Ukraine, and he warns that countries need to keep supplying weapons to Kiev to discourage Moscow from threatening other nations in the future. He spoke in an interview with Associated Press. Let's find out more.
The world sees that we are failing, that the United States are failing, let's say, providing support to Ukraine, then I think there is going to be increasing pressure on Israel. Also, I think that Iran is going to be then more assertive. Let's also not forget about the whole Asia region, and let's not also forget about Taiwan. I do have some feeling that Mr. Putin decided to attack Ukraine because he saw Afghanistan, he saw some other instances where he had a feeling that NATO, the West, probably is not going to be serious. Now, I would say that Ukraine is currently this line of defense in order to stop not only Russia but also other challengers of the current
about Russian fuel. Russia may be helping fuel the steady decline of global oil prices, despite Moscow's commitments to limit its exports. Russia has contributed to lower oil prices as its exports exceeded its own targets. The country has pledged to cut oil exports by 300,000 barrels per day. And dropping oil prices are also pushing the Ural crude price and its level closer to the West G7 price cap. In Africa, according to a report from the Economist Intelligence Unit, several African countries, including major economies like Nigeria, are expected to undergo currency depreciation in the coming year. It stressed that the Central Bank of Nigeria lacks the necessary firepower to clear the estimated $7 billion forex backlog, which is crucial for restoring confidence in the market. The report noted that devaluation's impact in 2024 will be less severe than that experienced in the current year. Several nations such as South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, and Zambia observed double-digit percentage weakening of their currency against the US dollar in 2023. The report noted that Zimbabwe will stand as the sole exception among the Southern African economies, with South Africa, Namibia, and Botswana expected to experience moderate levels of currency depreciation. Still talking about a Southern African country. The South African government has denied claims suggesting the implementation of new regulations aimed at limiting farm exports and its quotas based on race. Two media houses had reported that farm labels as too white will face restrictions on exporting their products to the UK and the European Union. The government says the report misrepresented the government's message about the procedure and annual application for export permits, outlining guidelines that will affect agricultural businesses with a minimum annual turnover of 10 million rand, an equivalent of $535,000. In Zambia, China has urged Zambia's additional creditors to bear a fair burden in the nation's debt restructuring efforts. This comes as the IMF and official creditors, including Beijing, have expressed reservations about the deal Zambia made with overseas bondholders. Zambia recently reached an agreement in principle with a bondholder group in late October, securing a restructuring deal with official creditors less than 2 weeks prior. In Nigeria, the Naira redesign policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has led to an increase in banks' profits from cashless transactions to 279.85 billion naira in the first 9 months of 2023, according to the financial reports. This represents a 29.89% increase when compared to the 215.44 billion naira raked in the corresponding period in 2022. The Naira redesign policy was implemented in the early part of 2023, forcing many Nigerians to embrace electronic forms of payment, leading to a spike in the volume of cashless transactions. Meanwhile, the number of Nigerians pursuing education in the United States has reached a record high in about 23 years, even amidst the foreign exchange crisis. This was revealed in a new report by the Washington-based Institute of International Education. For the 2022-2023 academic year, the count of Nigerian students enrolled at U.S. colleges and universities experienced a 22% surge to reach 17,640, up from the previous year's 14,438. According to the report, Nigeria emerged as the only African nation among the top 10 countries with the highest number of students studying in the United States. The U.S. hosted 1.06 million international students during the academic year, a 12% increase compared to the previous academic year. It is the fastest growth rate in more than 40 years. Still in Nigeria, Nigeria has hosted Libya, Angola, to regain its position as Africa's top crude oil producer for October. The Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, disclosed this in its monthly oil report. The oil production figures, aside from condensate production from the top 4 oil producers in Africa, were stated as follows. Nigeria at number 1 with 1.35 million barrels per day. Libya, number 2, 1.18 million barrels per day. Angola, 1.14 million barrels per day at number 3, and Algeria, 961,000 barrels per day at number 4. According to secondary sources, total OPEC 13 crude oil production averaged 27.9 million barrels per day in October, higher by 80,000 barrels per day, month on month. Crude oil outputs increased mainly in Angola, Iran, and Nigeria, while production in Libya, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait decreased. There is apprehension among Nigerians over the rising cases of plane crash landing incidents within Nigeria's aviation industry. In 14 days, the nation's aviation sector has witnessed 2 plane accidents. On Sunday, one incident occurred when a Boeing 737 jet with registration number 5NBYQ belonging to Aero Contractors Airline crashed and landed at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport. The Nigerian Safety Investigation Bureau described the incident as a serious accident. Similarly, another incident happened last week when a private HS-25B aircraft operated by Flint Aero narrowly averted tragedy as it crash landed on the runway at Ibadan, Oyo State. Passengers on board, including the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, escaped death. The development comes days after the Nigerian Aviation Authority, NCAA, warned pilots and airline operators to exercise cautions over hazardous weather in the dry season. And finally, looking at Nigeria's report, federal government-owned power firm, the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, has said that the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC, and the Nigerian Electricity Liability Management Company owe the sum of 190 billion naira for electricity supply. The Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the group, Achedu Ugbo, revealed this on the sideline of the media briefing in Lagos. According to him, the estimate was arrived at as a result of debts owed by electricity supply to the tune of 190 billion naira from 2015 till date. And quite concerning there. We'll go on a short break. When we return, Business 360 continues. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It is Business 360 and my name is Blyden Okem. Now looking at economic standings in the world. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen shares her take on Moody's Investments and Moody's Investor Services shift to a negative outlook on the U.S. AAA credit rating. She also disclosed and discussed how a government shutdown would affect the economy. She spoke at a press conference on the sidelines of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in San Francisco. Let's find out more.
And Treasury, let me start with the Moody's decision. They maintained the U.S. AAA rating, but indicated that there's a negative outlook. This is a decision that I disagree with. The American economy is fundamentally strong, and Treasury securities remain the world's preeminent safe and liquid asset. We have enjoyed over the past several years an historically fast economic recovery from a deep recession. Our unemployment rate is near historic lows. Inflation has come down significantly, and our economy grew by almost 5% in the third quarter. Now, it's true that
Meanwhile, the U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen also said that officials at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit see risks from the war continuing, but so far the global economic impact is limited. She had this to say.
We did talk about risk to the global economic outlook, and I believe there was a strongly shared view that it's important for all of us to work to do everything we can to contain the conflict between Israel and Hamas so that it doesn't become a broader regional conflict, that if it does...
The quality of economic data, and in particular GDP data, is of considerable importance in world economics. A number of countries produce GDP data of such poor quality that it is a little value in determining the size and growth of economic activity. World Economics reviews quarterly GDP and population data quality for 155 plus countries. Research shows that countries with little respect for the rule of law, political rights, and press freedom tend to manipulate economic data in ways they see as favorable to themselves. Also, countries run by dictators have been shown to exaggerate annual economic growth by 30% or more. Let's have a view of the 10 Asian countries believed to have reasonable governance and produce believable GDP and population data. The top 10 growing countries in Asia. According to the standings, Mongolia, according to the GDP growth rate and accuracy of it, grew at 4.3% at number 1 in Asia, population size and the data 3.4 million, and governance rating at B, a rating groupings from A to E, and GDP in terms of data quality at B, and population data quality at A. Indonesia at number 2, Malaysia number 3, Taiwan number 4, Singapore, New Zealand, Korea, Republic, Australia, Sri Lanka, and Japan at number 10. Many would have thought that Japan would be at number 1, but it's not, based on the accuracy of the reports they give and the growth of the country. Meanwhile, looking at the commodity markets now, the United States Department of Agriculture's November report showed the largest upside surprise to corn yield since 2017, with U.S. producers now forecast to produce an additional 170 million bushels above the previous estimates. How will the bumper crop impact grain markets? Let's find out more from Brian Splits regarding this.
The United States Department of Agriculture releases a World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates report monthly, and the November report showed the largest upside surprise to corn yield since 2017, driven by large increases in Wisconsin, Missouri, and North Dakota yields compared with estimates in the October report, as well as record corn yields in both Indiana and Ohio. National yield increased by 1.9 bushels per acre, which amounts to an additional 170 million bushels of production. Yield increases of this magnitude, especially when much larger than analyst expectations, can often cause a sharp sell-off in prices. Luckily for U.S. producers, there is also evidence of improving demand. All three categories of demand on the domestic balance sheet were revised higher, with export and feed residual demand both increased by 50 million bushels, while corn for ethanol increased by 25 million bushels. This 125 million bushel increase in total demand offset 74% of the increase in production, which helped keep prices from plunging.
Meanwhile, oil edges higher on market optimism. WTI crude futures climbed to around $78.5 per dollar, around $78.5 per barrel today rising for the fourth straight session after OPEC said market fundamentals remain strong and attributed the recent price drop to financial market speculators. In its monthly report, OPEC reads its forecast for global oil demand growth in 2023 to 2.46 million barrels per day, citing robust global growth and trends and healthy oil markets. The report also noted that China's crude oil imports stayed healthy and Asian refining margins remain strong. Moreover, oil prices were supported by a U.S. crackdown on Russian oil exports amid suspected violation of Western sanctions by shipping companies. Meanwhile, our traders remain cautious following reports that Iraq is planning to resume oil production from the Kurdish region's oil fields and restart northern oil exports through the Iraq-Turkey pipelines. Quickly, let's move to the market and see what the prices are, beginning with the energy market and afterwards the metal market and agricultural commodities next. The energy market. According to the market this morning, the U.S. crude oil price stands at $78 per bushel, gaining slightly 0.135 points gain, a 0.17% appreciation. For Brent price, which is Nigeria's price benchmark, a current standing is at $82 per barrel. Natural gas, gasoline, heating oil, coal, a little here, a little there, but coal price is downward by 1.25 points, a negative 1.01%. $122 per ton is the price of coal. The metal market. Gold price dropping slightly this morning by 1.39 points, a negative 0.07% decline. $1,944 per ounce is the price of gold. Our silver price gaining just slightly this morning, but the volatility level of the market is quite low. $22 per ounce is the price of silver. Our copper price also gaining just slightly, $3.6 per pound. And steel price 3,862 Chinese yuan per ton, and dropping 26 points at a negative 0.67%. Agricultural commodities. The price of soybeans is gaining 5 points this morning, 0.37% appreciation, $1,372 per bushel. Wheat price also at $576 per bushel, dropping 2.6 points this morning, a negative 0.45% decline. A lumber dropping 14 points, palm oil gaining 86 points this morning, 2.26% appreciation, 3,888 Malaysian ringgit per ton is the price of palm oil. And quickly, let's look at the foreign exchange market. Looking at FX updates this morning. Top currency losers are South Korean won this morning at a negative 0.74%, Australian dollar at a negative 0.26%. In addition, There was a slight change on the dollar index at 0.06% and British pound 0.03%. Now to the market itself, looking at the price of the euro against the US dollar and other majors. And afterwards, we'll talk about Naira's perspective, the euro against the US dollar first. The euro against the US dollar current price still at 1.06 points mark, same as the last 2 days. No significant difference in the market. The pound against the US dollar still standing at the 1.227 point mark, same as the last 2 days. No significant difference in the morning market. Let's look at Naira's perspective this morning. What is accountable of the Naira? 802 Naira equals 1 US dollar at the opener of today's market. The euro against the Naira, 856 Naira equaling 1 euro, a gain of 1.2 points for the euro over the Naira at the closure of November 10th market, quite a long while now. And the pound against the Naira standing still at 980 Naira equaling 1 pound. Quickly, let's look at the paro market, what the prices are for the paro markets. In the paro market, Naira against the major, the dollar to Naira, 1,141 Naira equals $1. The buying rate and selling rate, 1,127 Naira. A pound to Naira, 1,371 Naira equaling 1 pound. At the buying rate and selling rate, 1,347 Naira. A euro to Naira, 1,165 Naira equaling 1 euro at the buying rate and selling rate, 1,147 Naira. And quickly, let's look at the cryptocurrency market, what the digital coins seem to be saying this morning. The price of Bitcoin had reached a certain high, about $37,000 for 1 Bitcoin, but recent days it has dropped, but it's building up momentum again, reaching $36,679 for 1 Bitcoin, upward by 182 points this morning, a 0.5% appreciation. The price of Ether slightly downward by 1.2 points, Binance dropping a negative 4.07%, downward by 10.1 points, 238 US dollar is the price of Binance. Let's quickly conclude the conversation looking at the Asian stock market. The Asian equity market will mix today. A different outlook for it as investors cautiously awaited high-stakes stocks between the US and China. Markets also brace for US inflation data, which is expected to show a further slowdown in consumer price growth for October. Shares in Australia, Japan, and South Korea advance, while Hong Kong and mainland China stocks fell this morning. A brief look at the Asian stock and the African stock showing that mixed fortune from Japan to China, and the African stock are showing also mixed fortune. And here we draw the curtain in today's edition of Business 360. Thank you for being a part of it. My name is Blyden Wukem.